Story 1, They Betrayed Me, Boyfriend and Best Friend's Affair Revealed. I am Kate AF 22 and my boyfriend, which I will call James, is AM 24 and we have been together since 2021. We live in an apartment together and live very close to my best friend, whom I'll call Amy. James convinced me not to go to the college I wanted to learn at because he didn't want to move away from family, but I loved him, so I understood. Amy was also telling me to stay because she didn't want to lose me and that she would be so lonely without me, and that broke my heart because we have been friends since second grade. But anyway, me, James, Amy, and the other people in our friend group, which I'll call Mark, Evan, and Lisa, all went on a trip together to celebrate Christmas, so we got an Airbnb to stay at for our week-long trip. We were talking about who should share rooms, and there were like 3 rooms, so Mark and Lisa said they were gonna share because they were together. And then Amy said she and James could share because she wakes up early and so does he, so I can get some nice sleep, and I literally gasped because what, like, James is my boyfriend, why does she think she can sleep in the same bed as him? I don't know if it makes me seem insecure, but it rubbed me the wrong way. James said it wasn't a bad idea because he wanted to wake up early to go on walks and that he hated waking me up. I was just shocked that my boyfriend didn't want to sleep with me just because he woke up early, and when we were just at home I woke up early with him. I found it weird but said, no, James is my boyfriend, so me and him will be sharing a room. Thanks for trying to be thoughtful though. Lisa giggled because she later told me that she found it weird that Amy would even try to share a room with James, and both Evan and Mark just found it really odd. When we did go to the coast though, they started acting even more suspicious, and Amy wore this really revealing dress to dinner and asked James how it looked, and he said that it was really pretty. I took my boyfriend aside and started saying things like, why are you acting so weird and why are you letting her flirt? He just said I was being silly and overthinking it and that they were just being funny. But other things they did that made me think they were doing sneaky shit was that she would also be super close to him and tried to hold his hand when we walked, and she was asking him for help putting on a top, and it made me so uncomfortable. One day we were all supposed to be going to a bar, but Amy and James said they were just going to stay because they both felt sick, which just made me feel like something was going to happen while I was gone. But me and Evan, Mark, and Lisa had a good time, but I went to the Airbnb early because I had a bad rash and it hurt like hell. But when I walked to the door it was locked, but I just went to the back door since I thought we probably just locked the front door when we were leaving. But I went in and I heard my boyfriend and Amy upstairs, and I knew they were doing each other, so I just waited outside the door and listened because I was too scared to walk in. Eventually, they finished and got in the shower together, but they didn't leave the room because there was a bathroom connected to the room me and my boyfriend were sharing. I was so upset and I went outside and just cried, but I went to some burger place and waited until all of my friends went back. I returned to the Airbnb and my boyfriend tried kissing me and saying that he missed me, but I just had this hurting feeling in my chest and couldn't look him or Amy in the eye for the rest of the trip. We just went back home last week and I've been distant to him. He has been asking me why I'm acting so weird, but I have been too afraid to tell him or anyone else that I knew what happened. I have been thinking of things to do, and I know that he has an iPad and the iPad connects to his messages, so I could check that soon, but I have just been so hurt and lost because he is such a good boyfriend to me, but I don't know if I love him anymore after that, and I hate my best friend for doing that to me, and I am so upset that I have given so many things up just for them and sacrificed so many things for them, and I would really appreciate some help on what I should do. I'm sorry if this was really long, I just needed to tell someone. Hi everyone, thank you for your comments. I really appreciate it. Last night, before I wrote the post, I found his iPad and started charging it. James woke me up early as usual, so once he left, I looked through the iPad and the messages. It genuinely made me feel sick. I have been screenshotting their messages. Last night, before I went to bed, I told my family everything so that after I break up with him, I'll have somewhere to go. My best friend and boyfriend have been sexting since late September. I will send the screenshots to everyone after I confront James and Amy because I don't want my friends to tell them that I know what happened before I do. James gets home in about 5 hours, so I will update you all later. Again, thank you all. Hi everyone, I added paragraphs to this update so it would be easier to read. Again, thank you all so much for the support and kind messages. I appreciate it so much, it has really helped me through this and made me feel less alone. Right now, I am sleeping at a motel with all of my important things. I will be staying with Evan in a day or two once he gets his roommates sorted out. I told Evan that I needed him to come to my house because I was going to have an argument with James and that I was scared. Evan was really confused, and I said I couldn't tell him yet, but he agreed and stayed in the bedroom with me. When James came home from work, I sat on our bed while he lay on the couch like he normally does. I then sent the screenshots to the group chat that included me, James, Amy, Evan, Mark, and Lisa. I swear, as soon as I hit send, I felt my heart drop. I was so scared, but I heard James say, "What the fuck?" He didn't know I was home because I didn't greet him, so he texted me asking, "What's with those messages? What is happening?" I came out of the room and told him I heard them on our trip and that I was done with him and her and leaving the apartment. I was honestly so scared and stumbled over my words. He kept asking what the screenshots were and yelling at me. I started crying and yelling as well about how he is a selfish piece of shit and that I should have never put him first. He said the screenshots weren't real and called me a terrible person for trying to ruin their lives. I kept saying I found it on his iPad and that he was just trying to gaslight me. He then said if I wasn't a retard who knew how to treat him well, this wouldn't be happening. That hurt me so badly because he was my first boyfriend, and I tried so hard to do anything for him. Evan came out of the room and tried to calm us down. James started telling Evan it was all fake, but Evan isn't stupid, so he didn't believe him. Evan told me to go to the car with all of my stuff and that he would be out in a second. James started getting up in his face, and they began yelling. I sat in the car and cried. I have no idea how long it was, but Evan came out and drove me to the motel I am currently staying at because I don't have a car. Amy texted me, calling me a lying cunt who is jealous for no reason. I called her and told her I heard them and that the texts were on his iPad. There is no one to blame but themselves, and then I hung up. I am getting many texts from everyone, and it's stressing me out. James is texting me that he's sorry and that she was manipulating him, while Amy is cussing me out. The friend group is questioning me about the whole situation, but Lisa is being very sweet and supportive. She said there is no way they would let Amy and James hang out with them again since Amy is a homewrecker and James is an asshole. James keeps calling and texting me on nearly every social media platform I have because I blocked his number and some of his accounts. I plan on living with Evan for a little while and spending money we were saving for a plane ticket to Washington so I can spend Christmas with my family. I am just lying down while writing this on my laptop and playing Sims to relax. This whole situation has been so stressful, but part of me is happy that it's nearly over. Thank you all for your support and kindness. I appreciate you all. I recorded it and sent it to his family, my family, Amy's family, and the friend group, so that's all settled. I thought about putting the video in this post, but I don't want to accidentally leak any information. Thank you all again so much, and I will add another update if anything else happens. For now, I think that's all. Story 2. My wife is having an affair, and I'm struggling to hold my family together. I'm writing this because I feel like I've hit a wall and need fresh perspectives. My wife and I have been married for over 10 years, and we have 4 young children. I've always valued the idea of keeping our family intact above all else, but I'm caught in the middle of her ongoing affair with a coworker. Here's the backstory. I discovered her affair 10 months ago. It started August 2023, and though she acknowledges it, she hasn't ended it. She describes it as emotional, but I suspect it's also physical. She continues to have daily communication with him, and since they work together, they spend significant time in close proximity. He's divorced twice, has kids from both marriages, and seems to think their relationship is destiny. Her ambivalence is overwhelming. She's agreed to start therapy, but she hasn't committed to rebuilding trust or cutting ties with her affair partner. She's admitted that she doubts whether she can be with one person for her whole life, and her childhood was marked by her own mother's infidelity and eventual return to her family. I feel like she might be repeating that cycle, but it's unclear if she sees it that way. On the one hand, I love her deeply and want to work through this. I can see moments where she's still connected to me and our family, but they're fleeting. On the other hand, I'm watching her pull further away with every work trip and every secretive phone call. The emotional and physical distance between us grows by the day. To make things more complicated, I'm terrified of divorce. The thought of splitting up our household and only seeing my children half the time is unbearable to me. I can't imagine losing that daily connection with them, which makes me feel like I have to stay in this marriage no matter what. My wife recently said that getting past our issues would take 10 years, which I take as a metaphor for how overwhelming she finds the idea of rebuilding our marriage. She also hasn't given me any reassurance that she sees a future for us, yet she hasn't explicitly said she wants to leave, either. I feel stuck in this limbo. Right now, I'm torn between fighting for the marriage and wondering if it's already over. I don't know how much longer I can take the constant hurt of her ongoing affair and detachment, but I also don't want to give up on the possibility of us finding our way back. Has anyone been in a situation like this? How did you handle your spouse's ambivalence, ongoing infidelity, and lack of commitment to ending the affair? Is it possible to rebuild trust and connection in such a lopsided dynamic? Or is staying in this situation just delaying the inevitable? Any advice or insight would mean a lot. Hi everyone. Thank you for the responses and advice on my previous post. My wife is having an affair, and I'm struggling to keep my family together. The comments were blunt, but they gave me clarity and a lot to reflect on. Here's where things stand now. Last week, I told my wife that I thought we should sleep in separate beds given her ongoing affair. Her response was to leave the house for 5 days, staying with friends, family, and, what I strongly suspect, her affair partner, who likely flew in from California. This wasn't a decision we discussed, it was one she made on her own, refusing to consider other options I suggested. Since she returned, she refuses to sleep anywhere else in the house, ignoring the boundary I set. I'm left feeling like my boundaries don't matter, and she continues to prioritize her own comfort and decisions over what I've made clear I need. I've also taken steps to prepare for what's next. I've spoken to an attorney, and I've learned that because I live in a no-fault divorce state, adding her affair partner to the divorce filing won't have any legal impact. Regardless of who files first, I'm entitled to alimony payments. We would likely have to sell the house, she couldn't afford a buyout, and we'd each have to buy separate homes in town. So I know that's an option, it's always on the table. I just need to be ready to take that step when the time comes. When she came back, I told her that I'm done sitting around waiting for her to decide what she wants. I've made it clear this isn't an open marriage because I'm completely alone in this relationship, but I also told her that I'll be doing the same thing she is, seeing other people. I'm not necessarily looking for anything serious, but I need some kind of connection, even if it's just online. Now, she's back for the holidays, and we'll be spending the next 2 weeks with our kids and extended families. While I'm keeping it together for the sake of the kids, I've come to accept what many of you pointed out, this marriage is over. She has shown no remorse, no accountability, and no willingness to end the affair. She's faced no consequences for her actions, and it's clear she doesn't value our relationship or the family we've built. I'm preparing to take action in the new year, but I'm still figuring out how to navigate the immediate next steps. For those who've been through something similar, how did you balance keeping things calm for the kids while internally preparing for a major life change? What specific actions helped you feel in control during the transition? If you started seeing other people during this time, did it help or complicate things further? Thank you again for your honesty and support. I truly appreciate it. Story 3, all for some twat. He is homeless now. So July 7th I caught my boyfriend of 4 years cheating on me with a friend of mine. It was only sexting. For the first 3 days he lied and said she was crazy until she sent me proof that he sent her a nude. She told him to leave my fat ugly ass. She said I deserved it. I kicked him out, he went to my other friend's house. I thought it was strange but she told me she was just trying to help and I believed her. Each of the 3 nights he was there he came home to sleep next to me. She got upset and I still was bewildered by her behavior. At this point you may say it was obvious he was fucking her right. Here is why it wasn't. The woman was 62, and she was in no fucking way attractive. Sunspots, riddled with wrinkles, messy, sloppy drunk all the time. So to me I was lucky he might fuck other people but that a Halloween decoration. On October 26th he was trying to ask me what to do to get me back. I asked to see his text to show he had blocked the first person I found out about. The old woman had sent a message conveniently the moment I opened his messages that said, I should just tell her we have been fucking since March, have fun with that fat fucking pig you can't even fill her ass up. I couldn't believe it, I still cannot fucking comprehend why anyone let alone someone who was raising my kid with me would ever fuck that thing. I screamed so loud someone called the police to do a wellness check. My ex, he just left. The next day he revealed that he had also fucked a previous roommate who by the way blocked me because I expressed I was upset she was leaving a week after signing a lease to go live with her husband who cheated on her making them homeless because he literally lost his job in Japan as one of the consequences of his actions. She then fabricated a story of me being an animal abuser. She used my anger issue, which we had several conversations about my triggers prior to this, against me to get what I guess she thought was proof of the animal abuse she made up. It wasn't. My property manager said it was not. And so did the police that she called after she couldn't get me removed from my rental agreement due to the made-up abuse. I had to stay in a hotel for 2 nights to wait for her to leave because she made me feel so unsafe. I was at my mom's waiting for the check-in time to roll around and my ex was packing and doing laundry. He wasn't, they were fucking. Now get this shit, both of these women sued me because I tried to confront them about what they had done. Did I say nasty stuff? Sure. But that was it. There was no physical violence or retaliation other than in electronic form. The old lady is not the brightest bulb, so she filed all of her paperwork wrong and it was settled. But the roommate's family has money and she for some reason moved into my home with me, my child, and his stepdad, and immediately started talking to him about fucking her, and then sat around and waited to sue me for being in the same pain she was in only a year prior. He also had an emotional affair with another neighbor, making her believe he was being abused. Oh, and I paid the old woman an entire month's rent for him before I found out. She didn't need it, she took my money when she knew what she was doing. He got kicked out because instead of just continuing his relationship with her, he tried to court the neighbor he was having an emotional affair with, and it backfired because I told her about everything and she said no thanks. I am over here broken to pieces, and yet I still show up every day and pay for everything now that he is homeless. I do everything I can to give him the best chance possible to get off his knees and back on his feet, and he still mentally abuses me. At this point I know he will not change and he does not love me, but I can't stop showing up and I am tired of my fucking self. Story 4. I'm sitting in my car on this Christmas Eve night because of her betrayal. Edit. I came home after a night of deliberation in a cold car and y'all excellent advice, I kicked her out. Banged on the door, scaring the shit out of her, heard a yelp, and then she comes to the door and I tell her that her actions have caused this, get your shit and get out. I went back and sat in my now warmed car with the heater on. She got out and walked away. Last I saw she was walking down the road. Later, road hooker. I fucking hate you with every fiber of my being. Enjoy your Uber, till the next one comes along with an Uber XL. I've been with my wife/GF/best friend for 12 years. I'd been deceived, we've built a life together, sharing a camper, multiple vehicles, and even playlists that define us. Although we've had a pretty rock-solid relationship the past few years, there's been a history of dishonesty on her part early in our relationship. She made a mistake and swore never to repeat it. I thought we'd moved past it. Today, while I was at work, she texted she'd taken an Uber home because of car trouble. Later, she texted again, admitting it wasn't an Uber, it was a guy she met online. He drove hours to pick her up and brought her back to our camper. She slept with him, our camper, our home, what we've worked hard to get. It was nice till she brought him in there. Now, I'm sitting in my car on Christmas Eve, disgusted and furious. I can't bring myself to go home because knowing he was in my house makes my skin crawl. And when does a life partner, someone you trust, just let someone waltz in there? Now he knows where I live. The kicker? She's tried to justify it by saying she's happy and safe, as if that makes it better. She even admitted to lying about the Uber, like confessing after the fact should make me feel better. Here's the thing, I don't know what to do. I don't want to throw her out on Christmas with no car and nowhere to go, but at the same time, she's the one who caused this. Why am I the one sitting out here, miserable, while she's cozy in the camper she violated? Part of me wants to leave her completely, but another part of me just wants to go back, have it out, make a big argument, get my stuff that has meaning, and move on. What do I do here? Should I leave her? Should I confront her? Should I throw her out? How do you move forward from something like this? I've already hashed it out with her over text. I'm pretty done with words for her at this point. Story 5. I caught my girlfriend in a compromising situation with a male coworker. How do I proceed? Apologies in advance because this is a long one. TLDR, girlfriend got really drunk and flirty with 2 coworkers, and I feel like I might have made a mistake by giving her another chance. How should I proceed? My girlfriend, F28, and I, M29, have been dating for about 10 months now. I never had reason to distrust her, but recently something happened that has made me feel very insecure and has me questioning the relationship entirely. For context, we met at work and hit it off very strongly in the beginning. We had both recently come out of long-term relationships, so we took things a bit slowly and were friends first. Overall, she's been great. We get along extremely well, and I've been thinking a lot about a future for us. This has so far been the best relationship I've ever had. That was until recently. One night, she went out with a group of coworkers to get drinks after work. Now, I know some of these guys, and we hadn't gone out in a while, so I encouraged her to go but explained that I couldn't because I had some late night work meetings to attend to. She also planned to get a flu shot later that day before going out, so I told her to be careful with how she might feel as the night goes on. I leave work early and go back to her apartment where I take my first meeting. Within 30 minutes she walks in and begins getting dressed, but right before we leave she informs me that another guy will be there. This guy is a person who she had previously told me that she found attractive. Since I'm in the middle of my meeting, I can't really have much of a conversation, but I also thought since it's a bigger group setting it should be fine. Since she had also been forthcoming and transparent about telling me of her seemingly harmless attraction, I figured it wasn't a huge deal. I was however off-put by the fact that she waited until she was about to leave to tell me this. She tells me she'll be back around 9 p.m. and leaves. Some time goes by, and it's now 10 p.m. I texted her to ask how she was doing, but after a reply or two she stopped responding. This was where I got a bit concerned. We share our location with each other and I saw she was still at the bar, so I figured she was just busy. As it got closer to 11 I texted her again to no response, but now saw she was on her way home. As I see her location approach the apartment, I noticed that she had taken a different route home than usual, and stopped at a park nearby for a while. So I figured she was with somebody. At this point I was feeling quite concerned both for her well-being but also because I wasn't sure what she was doing. I was trying not to assume the worst, but my mind was racing. So I walk outside to go meet her. When I arrive, I see she's sitting on a bench with another coworker, not the guy she told me about, and she has her leg on his lap slightly. When I walk over she moves her leg quickly and I say hi. I notice my girlfriend is really drunk and the guy signals to me that she drank too much and tells me that he was taking her home. Now none of our coworkers actually know we are dating, so I played it off as if I had just ran into them. After a few minutes of chatting, the guy leaves and I walk her home. She's very drunk at this point and is stumbling as she walks, so I hold her. I asked how much she drank and she said she only had 2 drinks and isn't sure why she got so messed up. She didn't acknowledge the leg thing and didn't even seem to remember doing that. At this point I was furious, and I tell her that she crossed the line. She seemed very confused by my reaction and wasn't sure that she did anything wrong, but also wasn't in the state to have a normal conversation. Once we get in, she quickly falls asleep and I get dressed to go back to my place. Before I leave though, I did something I'm very not proud of and snooped through her phone. I found texts between her and her friend about how she was having sexual dreams about this guy she had told me about, and as the night went on she texted her friend things like, "He's so hot. This is hard," and, "While he brought his girlfriend here, she seems lame." The last text I saw was her saying, "I love OP and wouldn't want to change shit, but it's rough." Awake or not, she wasn't in any state to have a conversation with me, so I left. The next day I tell her that I am very upset with her because of how she acted and that I thought her going there was extremely irresponsible and feeding into a crush, not to mention disrespectful to our relationship. She tried to explain that it wasn't her intention for the night to happen like that, and that she didn't have a crush but was just attracted to him. She said she didn't actually like him due to various personality things, and that he also has a girlfriend. She also expressed concern with how drunk she was since she only had 2 drinks. She also explained that she was so drunk that she didn't remember the leg thing, and apologized because of how flirty she gets when she drinks too much. I felt like she was avoiding responsibility, so I laid into her and told her everything I was feeling. I told her that she only went there that night because her crush would be there, and once she found out he had a girlfriend and she got drunk, she quickly began flirting with the other guy who took her home. I also questioned what happened between the two of them at the park that night, since they were out there for 30 minutes before I came around. She insisted that she didn't remember what happened but knows she didn't cross the line by kissing him or anything, but later said that she might have held his hand at one point. She was crying and profusely apologizing to me, begging me not to leave. I decide to pack up all her stuff from my apartment and bring it back to her place to tell her that we are done. We talked for a while, and she insisted that nothing happened but she agreed that she fucked up and was extremely sorry. She also expressed worry that someone might have spiked her drink, which is obviously a very scary thought, but I told her how I thought she got very drunk because of the flu shot, and the fact that she barely ate that day. This is where I may have acted really stupid, but I decided not to break up with her. This whole conversation was really hard for me, and up to this point our relationship had been very solid. I really didn't want to break up with her, but I felt I had no choice. After about 2 hours of talking I told her that I would trust she didn't do anything that night, but that she needs to assert better boundaries with crushes and not feed into them. I told her that she also needs to not put herself in compromising situations like that. She agreed and recommended we sign up for couples therapy to get outside help and get to the root of her issues as well. Now, some time has passed and we are still together. We had a few big arguments about this situation, and overall this has been eating at me. I feel like it's opened up an entire slew of insecurities for me, and I think it will be extremely hard for me to ever trust her again. That said, I love her so much and really don't want our relationship to end without at least giving her a chance. Am I being naive for doing this? Did I make a mistake in not breaking up with her? I really need an outside perspective on this. I want to try and rebuild at least some of the trust one used to have in her, but it's been only a month so I haven't seen any corrective action yet. Please let me know your thoughts. Thanks in advance. Story 6, Wife Cheated. I developed a relationship and hooked up with the AP's wife. What do I do now? I'll try to condense this as much as possible. Okay, here it goes. Last November me, M30, and my wife, F29, got married. We had been together 10 years at that point, now 11. I started a new job that same month and my workload really increased. I was still running my previous business part-time while doing home repairs, car repairs, and working a lot of hours for my new job. We were making considerable more money. I bought her a second set of new tits in February, $13,000 cash, and we then planned our honeymoon for June, $10,000 cash. It was incredible, 5 nights in Tahiti in a overwater bungalow. Fast forward 1 week later. She goes to her high school reunion and proceeds attempt to hook up with one of her old classmates. She was drunk and got sick so it supposedly didn't happen. They then proceed to continue talking and then slept with each other 2 weeks later. She took an entire day off of work to go hang out with the AP on job sites and whatnot. Then stopped at his house where the sex happened. I found out just a week later through the grapevine and was then put into contact with the wife of AP, F26. This is his 3 weeks total from start to D-Day. We proceed to talk semi-regularly trying to find out what is going on. This goes on for months because my wife and AP contact does not fully stop. I mean a second phone, work phones, meeting at parks, etc., you name it. I was lied, gaslit. She faked reconciliation with me like 3 or 4 times while I was quite literally losing my mind trying to understand why she was doing this. Contact with AP stopped but continued trickle-truthing, then unblocked his number. This is so she could hopefully tell him off angrily because AP lied and used her, and at that point I initiated a separation. After this my wife is now starting to come around strong, writing me letters telling me how sorry she is and how bad she wants to make it up. She agrees that I can take a hall pass, if I so choose. Also at this time the wife of AP files for divorce. This is where our talks shift from affair talk to personal topics. We talked for hours upon hours for weeks and weeks straight. She is a really great person, we are very alike and got to know her quite well on a deep emotional level. We hang out and we have sex a couple of times, it was pretty good, we are super compatible, but then I start to feel uncomfortable because I can tell I'm getting attached and I'm having conflicting emotions because I really do love my wife and even after all this am drawn back to her. I then explain that we need to stop and I need to reconcile or divorce before anything more can happen. This is what I can't seem to make a decision on. Currently I've been separated from my wife for 3 months now. She's been going to therapy and has just recently made pretty dramatic changes and is doing a lot of things right to repair what's been done. She has taken a lot of responsibility, given reassurance, has been surprisingly self-critical, this is surprising, been introspective and learning a lot about herself, and has expressed all the things she wants to do differently and better for the marriage, and in being honest I believe it's the start of genuine change. The problem is I've been pushed so fucking far and have now developed this relationship with this seemingly incredible person that I'm not sure I even want it anymore. My wife is my first girlfriend and sexual partner, I've been with her the whole time. We have a mind-blowing very adventure sex life that I'm having a hard time with losing. There are kinks we've dabbled in that involve other people that have been nothing but fantasy. Does this have any weight? This obviously has been damaged but honestly feels like the only thing we have left that I can see being salvaged. The trust and forgiveness seems like the biggest hurdle to cross for me. She has brought a lot of good into my life and was honestly a pretty good life partner up until this incident. Now I'm fighting the fact that she is in fact a homewrecker, knew the AP had a 6-month newborn, faked reconciliation while looking straight into my eyes, and went to great lengths to hide this from me while I was out working while my personal interests have been sidelined for years now. Her reason? You guessed it, she wasn't getting enough attention from me. After all of this I still am struggling to make a definite decision to end this. I go from one extreme to the other multiple times a week, Is this love or immense codependency, trauma bond, attachment issues? On one hand, I've always wanted the better version of my wife. What if this is her wake-up call to grow up? She's definitely acting like it is. On the other hand, fucking then dating the AP's wife does stroke my ego because I know and despise the AP and I do find her high in moral quality, incredibly kind, very pretty, and she is very into me and has assured me it's for the right reasons as well. Biggest glaring issue is she has a 1-year-old with him, although this will be a 80-20 custody. Talk some sense into me, guys, I need it. Story 7, girl I was exclusive with ended up F***ing and dating another man. Hi guys, I am 22, met this girl, F22, 2 years ago. We lived in the same student housing and bumped into each other from time to time. After a night out we thought it was a good idea to spend the night together. One thing led to another and we ended up becoming FWB. All was good until she caught feelings, to which I responded hesitant. I was still healing from a past toxic relationship and ended up backing out of our FWB at the start of the next semester. We also both moved to different apartment buildings. After an almost full academic year we ended up finding each other again in summer at the city festival of our student city and we immediately connected. We started seeing each other again, but again she mentioned wanting to move to something more serious. I told her I'm still scared to commit to someone after being hurt so bad years before. She understood and said we'd work through it together. I eventually agreed and promised to open up and try to see if more feelings would develop. I ended up falling in love with her and we became fully exclusive and saw each other almost daily. Although she graduated, she didn't move out of her student apartment and started working close to the city I was still studying and living in. As she didn't work full-time, this actually worked pretty good. All of a sudden, at the beginning of December, when the study period before the exam period was starting, we were going out with our respective friend groups. We were texting all night planning when we would leave together to spend the night together. After I texted her I was leaving my friend, she told me I wasn't welcome anymore. This came out of the blue and I insisted we still meet up to talk about it. She eventually gave in and she mentioned she was feeling unhappy and I wasn't showing her enough commitment. This surprised me and I started pointing out the various moments I proposed, date nights, etc. She agreed with me, but still didn't feel as strong as a connection as in the beginning. I understood but didn't want to leave it like this, so I proposed to meet up and talk about this. We ended up doing so 4 days later. That night we agreed, and kissed after, to not text for a few days and meet up at the weekend to visit a concert and explore another city, a date I had proposed a few times before. We ended up postponing the date 2 days due to some valid reasons. After this date she withdrew her statement that this date would be the last one we ever had, something she had said the day before. We hugged goodbye and I had the feeling we weren't over, but that she was just trying to find herself, and I told her I would be there to help her and will show patience. That night we texted a little and she discovered a note I left her telling her I understand she's struggling and that I've started loving her over the past few months. She thanked me for the note and told me she was happy with how our date went. The day after I didn't hear anything from her. I texted her 2 to 3 times, even adding to one of the texts that if she wants to be left alone for a little while I would understand. Another day passed and I still hadn't heard anything, which gave me the idea to ask a mutual friend she'd known for years before meeting me for some advice. As he'd known her for so long I wanted to ask whether I should leave her alone, call her or keep texting her short messages declaring my love and support. He understood what I asked him, but added that she said she was seeing another man. This shook my world and I panicked and asked him to elaborate. He told me I deserved to know that she'd been seeing and dating a coworker. Still in a state of panic I eventually called her, although I knew she was at work. She responded and when asked if she was actually seeing someone else she didn't respond but asked me where I got this idea from and who told me such things. Eventually she admitted to dating another guy and when asked for how long and if they'd done anything yet she didn't want to answer and hung up saying she had to keep working. I crashed emotionally and ended up calling a close friend and driving to him. She ended up calling me 4 hours later asking to continue the conversation. By now I had calmed down and just asked her the same questions that were left unanswered. She admitted she met him at work and started seeing him 3 weeks before after serving a shift together. When asked if they'd done anything together in the bedroom she didn't answer, but eventually admitted to having had sex with him. After claiming not remembering when it all took place she gave in and told me when it happened. Remember I told you we agreed to meet up in a weekend and even ended up kissing before I left? Well, they ended up having sex mere hours after I left that night. She also ended up saying she didn't want to tell me because she wanted to protect me. The last night we kissed I even told her I didn't understand most of her motives behind wanting to stop seeing each other, and told her my gut was telling me something else was at play although I didn't believe she'd do such thing. I don't know what to do with myself right now. I feel cheated on but I don't know if this is the correct feeling. It hurt so bad because she ended up doing the thing that kept me from committing to her, even when she promised she would never do that. I just need some advice what to ask her or do now. Story 8. Wife confessed to affair 2 years ago before marriage while in LDR. My wife and I have been married for almost 2 years. We got engaged in April last year and married in June. Before that, we met online and we were friends for a year, then became romantically involved for 6 years, 9 years total, 7 years long distance, 0.5 years official, 1.5 years married. Since we come from conservative families, we didn't define our relationship as boyfriend/girlfriend until we had enough money/COVID travel restrictions waived to visit each other finally 2 years ago, PH and US. Well, after I proposed, my wife let me know that a guy had been trying to court her, met online, like me, and visited her in person but that she turned him down at the airport. Like a chump, I thought nothing more of it. After all, she had confessed it to me and nothing happened, right? Fast forward to June of this year, married a year, she sits me down and confesses that she kissed this guy that one time when he visited. Or rather that he kissed her and that's it and she really regretted it. It really hurt my heart, but I forgave her. It was only a kiss, right? A day ago she confessed again. It was actually a week-long vacation with this guy. They went to restaurants, had an Airbnb, kissed, made out, and did all the bedroom things except sex and that she even cried during the bedroom stuff. She called herself stupid and that she couldn't believe she could act like that. She said she deleted his contact info and blocked him everywhere after telling him it was over before we got engaged. They did non-sex sexual stuff, 2 or 3 times, during that 1-week trip. They made out several times between texting me that she loved and missed me. They did emotional stuff, too. A lot of talking, cutesy dates, the works. She told me she had lied about the trip at the time. She said she was doing a retreat with friends and wanted to unplug from electronics, no phone/video calls, only text, which she admitted was a lie. I had to pry the details out of her to find out they did bedroom things. I honestly don't believe her that was it. What do you think I should do? She seemed sincere and every time she was the one who brought it up, likely because both her parents died this year and she started to reevaluate why she did it or why she was keeping secrets. I never caught her red-handed, yet. Also we were LDR, and didn't meet in person, until 3 months after the affair. I considered it a relationship, but I know she rationalized that it wasn't. Do you think I can trust her again? Should I trust her? I know the first step is a postnup with adultery clause, but I don't know if I should stop being a chump totally or try it out for one more go. Story 9. I'm F33. My ex was my friend for 20 years and I've always liked him since we were teens. Life happened. He entered the seminary as he has always been pious, then his family moved to another country. Even if we had not been in touch, I've always looked up to him and regarded him as my ideal guy. He's always respectful, a gentleman and a gentle soul overall. We'll occasionally chat/email each other over the years. Eventually, he went out the seminary and was no longer pursuing the religious life. We also saw each other before COVID hit when he went back to our hometown for a quick visit. I've been in relationships before but when I saw him again, I realized that he's still the person I want to end up with even though it seemed impossible given the distance and other circumstances. I'm a spiritual person myself so I prayed intently for him to look my way. Out of the blue, he reconnected to me early this year. We chatted and video called and rekindled our friendship. It felt like divine intervention. Eventually, we entered into a discernment phase to determine whether we'll move forward into a romantic relationship. Part of this phase was laying down what could potentially be the truths about ourselves that may be the deal breakers for the other. We were already in our 30s and been friends for so long so we did not see the need to prolong the shallow chit-chat. I've told him about my past and he also told me about his. He disclosed that he has attractions for both men and women. He told me that he had relations with a guy before but his calling really is becoming a husband, a father, and a holy person so he broke it off. He was also attending a support group at church for his same-sex attraction to guide him as he pursue a chaste life. I accepted him, we professed our love to each other and we became a couple. That was the happiest day of my life. Or so I thought. Every week, we will do our devotion/Bible study. We would also call twice a day and have deep conversations about the family we would like to build. My visa application got approved and I was supposed to see him early next year. Both our families are happy and so are our many common friends as we really seem destined for each other. We planned on getting married next year and days before our breakup, he was even following me up on my ring size for when he proposes to me. Overall, we had a happy relationship at least from my vantage point. For the 4 months of our situationship/discernment and 4 months as a couple, he was the perfect boyfriend. Not until last week, on my birthday week, he dropped a bomb that altered everything. I sensed a slight energy change from him. It turned to a little disagreement when I requested that for my birthday, all I want is peace of mind, pertaining to the stoppage of our petty disagreements. He suddenly did not want to talk and would not want to answer my calls. I was puzzled for why he snapped but pressed him to communicate with me. That's when he disclosed that when I mentioned the word peace, he felt the need to confess as he did not have inner peace himself. As said in the title, as early as 2 months into our relationship, he's been sleeping with random men he will meet through cruising. It happened multiple times during our relationship and with different guys. He also disclosed that he withheld the information about his gay sex addiction during our discernment phase even when I asked for honesty before pursuing a relationship. I cannot believe what I heard. The man I looked up to for his moral standards, the man who prompted me to be kind and understanding when I'm being mean to others, the one who worshipped and prayed with me, the man I was supposed to marry, turned out to be a fraud. All of these he did knowing how hard I'm working for us to be together, how I also have trauma of my own, and how difficult life had been for me. I accepted him for who he is and never cared about his past. What hurts apart from the betrayal, gaslighting, which I recognized only after the relationship, and manipulation was that he did not even have the slightest motivation to heal from this addiction for us. I don't even know if he really has addiction or he's just hiding behind an illness to minimize his infidelity and the truth about his sexuality. He mentioned to me occasionally that he wishes to go to counseling but he never really brought himself to it. I'm distraught and felt like God gave me a taste of my dream only to take it away during the season when it's supposed to be the merriest. I ended the relationship, cut off communication with him and his family members, asked him to pay for all the money I spent for the visa and plane ticket, and booked a psychiatrist immediately for my own healing process. It will be a difficult road ahead of me. I usually run to God for solace in difficult times, but even my faith reminds me of my ex. The dissonance is still strong. Suddenly, I didn't know which part of the relationship was true and which was just a facade. I don't even know if he truly loved me even though he said that he did. 20 years of friendship also went down the drain. I gain comfort knowing that I'm not alone in this journey. May healing come upon us. And if you're a believer like me, may you find strength in the grace of the Lord knowing He protected us and our would-be children from further pain. Any words of encouragement will really help me get through this. While imperfect, I'm not a bad person. I lived life with integrity, I've loved dutifully, and I don't want this trauma to impact my future relationships. Thank you everyone. Story 10. How I caught my ex trying to cheat on me with everything. When I was 19 years old, I attended a party with a group of friends. I was in this super toxic long-distance relationship at the time and I found out at this party that said LDR was actively cheating on me. Shattered and scorned, I immediately hooked up with another guy at the party who we will call J, M29. Jay and I actually hit it off pretty well the next day when we sobered up. I gave him a ride home, he gave me his number, and pretty soon we were dating. In the beginning he was charming, funny, and spent a lot of time telling me how stupid my ex was. What more could a girl in my situation want? We moved in together way too fast. Shortly after I moved in, he lost his job. I started to realize that he was drinking a lot. The honeymoon phase quickly ended as I realized I had just signed a lease with an unemployed alcoholic. He had some serious trauma that he used to justify his behaviors, and I had some serious trauma that made me want to save him. Fast forward 1 year. He still can't keep a job. I'm working 2 to 3 jobs to keep us afloat, and all the time outside the house is keeping me blissfully in denial as his drinking is steadily getting worse. I'm doing all the domestic labor to keep us clean, clothed and fed, because he just doesn't care about those things like I do. In my bones, I knew he was cheating on me, but I had no proof. I was having these insane nightmares of women approaching me in groups and they were all pregnant with his baby. Of course, every time it was brought up, he called me crazy. He let me go through his phone. Where would I even be meeting women? He'd asked me, after another day spent alone in our unkempt apartment. Of course it was all my fault. I never got over my ex cheating, so I was just projecting on him. If you've ever been in a situation where you're desperate to catch someone cheating, you know how literally crazy it can make you. So when he shared a password with me to pay a bill, and casually mentioned that it was the password he used for everything, I made sure to write it down for the future. A few weeks later, during a slow work day, I used the password to sign into his email. He had recently rejoined Facebook and I was just sure that there'd be some nefarious notification that confirmed my rabid suspicions. What I found was so much worse than that. Every single day of our 18-month relationship, this man had been soliciting sex all over the internet. Dating sites, fetish sites, rambling emails propositioning his high school sweetheart whose phone number he had lost. The worst though, were the Craigslist, casual encounters, ads. I don't think they exist anymore, but for anyone who doesn't know, there was a whole section of Craigslist dedicated to random hookups. He must have answered every single ad that got posted. Men, women, group stuff, weird kinks, he was apparently up for it all as long as it was with anyone but me. Email after email, I got to read in detail about all the ways I didn't satisfy him. He regularly called me his crazy wife, told the chubby girls that he was seeking that my fit body did nothing for him while I worked 40+ hours in a gym to pay for the phone he was using to chat with them. The worst of them all though, was an email chain with a sex worker. Not only did he steal cash from me to pay this woman, but he had arranged to hook up with her in my car the day before my birthday. I remember the day vividly because he had taken the car to a job interview, then come home and cried to me about how embarrassed he was that he wouldn't have the money to buy me a birthday present. I had literally comforted this man, insisted that material things didn't matter to me, all the while his dick was probably still wet. I sort of blacked out after reading that one. I asked a coworker to cover for me, drove home and confronted him. He immediately flipped it on me, told me it was entirely my fault, that I didn't try hard enough to be what he wanted or satisfy his needs, that I was so busy all the time, and that he was just trying to get me to leave because he didn't respect me enough to be honest and dump me himself, especially while I was giving him a free ride. I immediately threw everything I could reach into garbage bags and left his ass. All these years later, I still don't think I've fully recovered from all that. But ever since I left, he's been intermittently homeless and in and out of jail, so maybe karma is real at least. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and hit that subscribe button to follow cheating love stories for more amazing videos. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.